Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at A Stetka. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. This is episode 299. Yes, we are one away from number 300, and the Premier League season is here, even if Spurs did not get the memo. We are going to get into it, and we're going to dive deep into it. I've got Todd alongside. He is at TC_Kasho, a man that I know does not care nearly as much as my wife about Erling Haaland's new haircut. What's going on, TC?
Any day, brother. Any day that's that you can talk about Pedro Porro being a World Cup winner is a good day. That's where my head's at. Did you know that? Pedro Porro won the World Cup? And
that happened.
He's one of the best right backs in the world, and that's just something I'm really excited about on this team.
Can't wait to see him.
I can't wait until we have a right back play, and I hope it's Pedro Porro.
It would be nice, would it not? Look, we all kind of know what we witnessed over this weekend. We witnessed a dreadful, dreadful start from Tottenham Hotspur, a 3-0 defeat away to Brentford to start the season. And I think that before we even dive in, I think we're just going to blanket statement. One game does not a season make. And this is also not a complete product that we saw on Saturday. This is a very incomplete product and a very incomplete project. So that's where I'll start. This was not good, my friend. That starting 11, let's just dive right in. I had some questions, and I know that there are a lot of fitness questions and injury questions and coming back from the World Cup questions. There's a lot of things. I want to talk a little bit about the preseason because I think we're getting some answers as to how effective that was. But my friend, what did you learn from Saturday at the GTEC?
Well, I learned a lot of things. The number one thing that I want to say is I understand. To all of you listening to this, with all of the feelings that you feel in this moment, I understand. All of the excitement that you had leading up to the match on Saturday dashed within the first 10 minutes. This was, for those pragmatists out there, what you were afraid of happening. We looked worse than we did on the last day of the season last year. You're right. For all of those of you out there saying all of those things right now, you're right, that happens. But to Andrew's point about the fact that one game does not a season make, the other thing that I would assert here, Andrew, is that three things, and then we'll go into what we learned. The first thing is, as you mentioned, this is not a completed product. We are missing 4 of the 5 captains, which is why Archie Gray became the youngest captain that we've ever had, surpassing Steve Perryman. In a shambolic effort on his part, by the way, it just wasn't good. But we don't have any teeth going forward, and we knew we didn't have any teeth going forward going into this match. And so, like, for anybody to look at this and go, one, and we'll come on to other fans later, but the narrative outside, like, oh, you can't finish 2 seasons in 17th in a row and then just spend $300 million and expect it to fix everything. Ha, ha, ha. Number one, we didn't have we didn't play that money in the way that you would expect it to be played. I learned, as we go into what we learned, I learned that Van Hecke and Senesi are not a good pair. They both do things well, but them together is not effective. 2, Mikey Moore is a fantastic prospect that is not ready for the Premier League yet, and that's entirely okay, and he needs to go out on loan. He was point blank finished, and he thought too much about it, tried to place the ball. You can't do that in a Premier League. You just got to grip it, rip it. And he didn't, and it showed. And the 3 best offensive opportunities we had went wanting because of his inability to finish point blank chances. And then the last thing that I learned, Andrew, is that Lucas Bergvall is exactly who you and I knew Lucas Bergvall was. And I'm glad that his agent and his entourage got to see exactly who he was. There was word that came out that Lucas basically demanded to be played in a double pivot. And De Zerbi basically said, "Dude, you're not ready to play in a double pivot." And Bergvall and his people were like, "Either play me in a double pivot or sell me." And he was like, "Fine, let's see how this goes." And he came out in his comments after the game, and he said, "I knew that Lucas would suffer in this game in that position more than say a Bentancur." And what that says to me is, "Bitch, I told you, and you should have paid attention. I've played more midfield than you could possibly imagine, and I know what success looks like in this role, and that's not you yet."
Is that a good decision by the manager to
On the first
make
game
that
of the
kind of
season,
statement?
listen, my whole perspective, yes, my whole perspective on this is an extra preseason game. And the reason why I say it that way, and granted, I'm going to hear all the fucking nonsense from all the people that are about every point counts. This could be the difference between Europe and not, or relegation and not, or champions. I hear you, but we're talking about a World Cup year in
Yeah,
in a match where we're missing 7 of our 11 starters.
yeah.
You can't look at that and say this didn't feel like another preseason game. Fucking Archie Gray was our captain.
So that's
This
actually where I
felt
wanted
like
to
another
go.
preseason match.
And this is why I brought up the preseason right at the top, because I think what I learned from this match is that uh, in a World Cup summer, especially, taking your squad to both Australia and New Zealand for friendlies against, let's just call it a spade, lesser competition, plus Chelsea was thrown in there. And the jet lag was something that people talked about nonstop. I mean, we're still hearing about it. I feel like from Mickey Van de Ven, like the jet lag affected everyone on this trip. I don't think that this preseason was an effective one for Roberto De Zerbi, and that's not even really entirely his fault. This preseason was obviously planned well before he took the role, but I don't think that this was an ideal warm-up session for this team. There's certainly players coming back from World Cup affects that. Certainly the injuries already within the squad affects that. And Spurs are not the only team that had players come back from the World Cup. And a lot of those players came back this weekend and looked good and looked strong. Spurs, however, went on this trip, and I don't think it was the best way to prepare them for the season. I don't think that they got the intensity that they needed in the preseason to prepare for the intensity that Brentford was obviously prepared with on Saturday. And I think the other part of this that we actually have to recognize is that Brentford are a well-drilled, damn good team that deserve some praise for the way they came out in match week 1 and stuck it to us. They were the better team. They won all the duels, and they did it from jump, and they made Spurs look like a team that, to your point, is still in preseason mode and has not ramped themselves up to what is now the season is underway. Like the games count from here, as you said. And I get what you're saying. Like people are going to bristle at that, but like this is where we are. And the fact that the manager was not only did the manager not get this team in the best position to put its best foot forward in the first game, he wasn't given that opportunity because of everything that led up to this either. So I think that
What I want to
when
say
you
to
mix all
that
of those
is,
things together, that's what led to what we saw.
what I want to say to that is, thanks on your way out the fucking door, Daniel Levy, because this trip during the last preseason was planned a year ahead of time and announced a year ahead of time. We knew where we were going in like October.
And we
And
knew that there was
so
a World Cup this summer too. So knowing all
100%.
of
And
those
so this is
things,
what I'm saying is that this was AIA backed, and this was a lot of other moving parts. But that shit team from down the road, they stayed in Europe for their preseason.
mhm.
So it's definitely something to consider. Um, there's 38 Premier League matches. We absolutely crap the bed on this one, and I think that falls on a number of people and a number of decisions. Ultimately, it's laid at the feet of Roberto De Zerbi. Um, but Andrew, when we did the preview for this match last week, you said, "How do you think it's going to go?" And I said, "I still don't see where the goals are coming from."
Right.
And now you know why.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, we do think
And
that things are going to change from a personnel standpoint there soon. We got over the weekend, we got all the reports saying that Savinho's done, Marmouche is done, even though as we recorded this on Monday, Marmouche trained with City today. So like the wheels are still churning on all of these things and they all still need to, the dominoes still need to fall.
I hate the way that Spurs operate at the end of the window. I always hate the way that they operate at the end of a window. Both of these deals, Marmouche, Savinho, Gakpo, if you wanted them in, they should have been done. Gakpo now looks up in the air as City have entered the race in that conversation.
Yep.
And so, I mean, now what are we even talking about?
I mean, not only that, but Gakpo's scoring over the weekend and kissing the badge too. So
it looks like we're going to get caught with our hand in a fucking cookie jar again, which I hate. And, you know, coming into this, it was like, well, is Savinho and Marmouche enough? Like, if we sign two more, how would you feel? I would still rate that a 9.5 out of 10 window, to be honest. I really would. But I have no idea who this team is, Andrew, because so many of our key pieces are still out, injured, or unavailable.
well, and I think that Roberto De Zerbi is still figuring out who this team is as well, and I think that's it's
Well,
it's
how
part of
could
his
you know who the team is when you don't have all of these star players?
No, you're 100% right, and I guess what I'm interested in, and I want to dive in a little bit. I have a few more things on the game itself that I actually want to touch on before we get into the broader picture. You brought up Bergvall. You also brought up Archie Gray and Mikey Moore. Was there anyone else that you wanted to pick out? Because I have one name in particular that I'm. And, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. If I never see Richarlison play another minute in this shirt, it will be too soon. And I know everybody has their own feelings about Richarlison, but I am just so tired of cursing Richarlison for being who he's always been.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, passing the ball into Richarlison as though he is some sort of a hold-up play type player is insane at this point in time, because that's not part of his game. But that is part of De Zerbi's game, which is why you're hearing the Richarlison out information be hyped up. Now, the only issue that I have with that, Andrew, is that we were going to sell him back to Everton, but now it looks like Everton's trying to get Liam Delap, which they would much rather have over Richarlison. There's a decent chance we get stuck with that fucking guy on our team again. And as I mentioned, if we have Richarlison and Solanke going into the season, we're in big trouble. Who's your guy, though?
Well, people are gonna react here. It's the goalkeeper. I've got questions, my friend, and there are some rumors out there that Spurs are still interested in bringing a goalkeeper in. Where that piece would fit into the puzzle, is beyond me. They did already obviously bring in one goalkeeper this summer on a free in Dubravka. I like Anton Kinski, and I like the way he played down the stretch last season. I don't think that proves that he is a Premier League goalkeeper for the long term. And I do think there are still going to be a lot of questions asked of him that he does not have the answers for. He was very bad. He was bad in this game.
I don't agree with that. I think our defense got dog-walked 3 times for point-blank chances, and he did the best he could in the shitty situation he was in. The first goal literally got passed across the face of the box and touched into the corner. The second goal, off of Richarlison, back to their offensive player, cut through the lines, Senesi looking, Bergvall looking, bang in the back of the net. And the third goal was another transition fucking nightmare, where did he cover himself in glory with the save attempts? I don't know. I feel like every goalkeeper looks bad when they get scored against. I felt his distribution play was pretty good.
Ooh,
my issue was more.
It was very bad.
My issue was more with the way that they were having him distribute, which was out of the back.
Throw it long to Richarlison, who can't hold the ball up.
Kick it long to Richarlison, who can't fucking hold the ball up.
And that's part of that is because there was no progression through the midfield that was playing, which is a big issue as well.
Lucas Bergvall is not a progressive midfielder.
100%. But when it comes to Kinski, my questions are, and look, part of this problem, you're right. The defending in front of him was not even
It
close to
was
up to par.
woeful. Ben
It
Hecka
was
looked terrible.
it was Thomas Frank level like last year defending. I mean, they faced 26 shots in this match. I think the part of the reason that we were so encouraged by Kinski at the tail end of last season and what he was capable of, we noted this at the end of last season. Part of that is because the changes that De Zerbi had made meant Spurs were facing fewer shots because they were being more attacking. And so they were not doing that in this match, obviously. They were not more attacking and they were facing a ton of shots. So that is going to make Kinski look bad, maybe worse than he was. But I just,
And the
I'm going to approach this a little bit like I did with Vicario for the longest time, where it's not that I'm out, it's that I'm going to continue to ask questions until they get answered. And
that's fair. I think the one place that Kinsey could have been better on Saturday was he parried the first goal right back into the path.
Yes.
And in the second goal, I want to say he got his hands to it, but his hands separated. He got caught in between, or it might have been the first goal. He got caught in between trying to catch it and parry it. And I think that, playing Hoffenheim is nice, but it's not the same as playing Brentford, especially this Brentford side that looks they're going to give a lot of people problems this year. So long as they can stay healthy, I mean, I absolutely see top 8 for those guys.
It's weird that we don't view Brentford, even though they kind of have proven this over the last, like they are just a solid mid-table Premier League team at this point. Like, and they only came up a few years ago.
To them.
I don't think we give them enough of that credit. And part of that was weirdly enough, the Thomas Frank building that through things, which is strange.
It wasn't though. It wasn't Thomas Frank building that. And I want to be very clear about it. They have a system behind the scenes that is set up
of good recruitment,
pump out a football theology.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas Frank is an exceptional paper pusher. And that's all they asked him to do in that role. They did no better or no worse than they should have done with the talent they had on their team. You forget the type of front players in Watkins and Wisa and what's his name, Ivan Toney, and all the guys that they brought through there. Like, it's not an accident that they are where they are, and they picked up, I want to say, was a right back or whoever, or left back, whoever was facing Tell. They paid 40 million something for.
Are you talking about Singari?
And made Tell look bad, real bad.
And it's funny because I thought the Tell and Robertson thing going down the left actually was some of our brightest stuff in the first half. It wasn't. There was nothing anywhere else on the pitch, which made it tough. I do think that the changes that were made at halftime, Bergvall and Gallagher coming off for Fernandes and Bentancur, it sucks because the timing of the third goal coming so shortly after the interval really did kind of kill the game. But I thought that it was looking improved in the second half. And then when James Maddison came on, it kind of all slowed back down again, which is a shame because I think this is a guy who's still working his way back from all the things and apparently picked up a new shoulder knock in this match as well. So there's going to have to be reevaluation there. I guess I am
paper mache.
Yeah. I guess I am just still feeling a little bit of this. Why wasn't this team more prepared going in? And that's the part
because we didn't have 7 of our 11 starters. It's not really that hard. And I feel like we're kind of overthinking it.
Right, but why is that? Like, why are these guys not prepared? Why are these guys not ready?
So, we are still coming off of the worst injury crisis a Premier League team has ever faced.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're still not out of those woods yet. You couple that with guys like Mickey Van de Ven, who played virtually every match for us last year, and then every match for his country over the summer. And I think, and they're not talking about it, but I think he picked up a knock playing for the Netherlands.
That's distinctly possible. And I also think that what I talked about earlier with traveling so far during the preseason, because if you remember, Mickey did travel but did not play at all. like I think all of that has compiled itself into just an
And then,
unprepared, unproductive preseason period.
well, okay, I disagree that it was unproductive. And the reason why is because as De Zerbi's getting to know these players, he needs to see, especially in a season with only 3 competitions, he needs to see the lesser players get the minutes so we can determine who they are. One. Two, you don't want to put extra miles on the tires in coming off of a World Cup year. That's how people get injured. And number three, I think De Zerbi resigned himself, given what he was up against, given the fact that Madison and Kudus and Kulusevski and Odebear and all these people aren't fit. He resigned himself to looking at these first couple of weeks of the Premier League season is just getting everybody up to speed. And I know that's not something you can come out and say in the media, but as I'm looking at the team that was on the pitch, the attitude of the manager before, during, and after the game, and kind of the way that the rest of the players are looking at it, everybody kind of knew this was going to happen. So I just look at it and go, okay, we're going to drop points throughout the year. Some of them are going to be stupid points. Some of them are going to be heartbreaking points. Some of them are just going to be we got beat points. That's going to happen throughout the season. Now, I'm not going to Thomas Frank it here, but I'm just simply saying points are going to be lost throughout the year.
I was going to say that's exactly who you sound like.
Eat it. Is this the ideal time to drop 3 points? No, because it's a sour note coming out of the gate, and that's the first perception. And then you have Gary Neville coming out going, it's good that Tottenham spent a bunch of money and got smacked in the mouth by a hardworking team. Fuck Gary Neville. To your face, sir. But what I will say above and beyond that is they don't crown the champions of the Premier League in August, Andrew. And we're looking at a competition where we don't have any of our key offensive pieces going forward right now. We don't have any. Dominic Solanke got back on the pitch, and that's great news. He looked a hell of a lot better than Richarlison did for the majority of the game. But he's still not, like, I know we paid £65 million for him, but I have not seen nearly enough from Dominic Solanke to feel comfortable running him out there and saying he's the solution.
I agree.
However,
I agree 100%.
I know for a fact Mikey Moore on the right wing is not the solution against Newcastle at the weekend. And I personally believe that though Matthias Tell will get better this year, that as soon as Savinho gets in this team, he's likely going to get moved to the bench. Actually, to be fair, if it's just Newcastle, it's probably going to be Savinho on the right because Kudus isn't healthy yet, right? Tell's healthy, Savinho will be healthy. Savinho can play both sides. He'll probably play on the right. But when everybody's fit, Andrew, the team that you saw on the pitch against Brentford is not remotely close to the team that we're going to field. And so I can't be upset at the manager or the players when they go into a Premier League opener down 7 starters and then don't really get out of the blocks. That's kind of par for the course.
The one stat that stood out to me from this match is that the Spurs went the entire first half without a single shot on target, and that is the 10th time that they have done so since the start of last season, which is mind-boggling. And I think that speaks to your Richarlison point, especially versus Solanke at this moment, and for everything else that needs to happen from an attacking standpoint. I want to dissect this kind of mindset that I saw playing out last week on social media. Obviously, a lot of the Aston Villa and Newcastle fans were in everybody's mentions, bitching and moaning and complaining about the fact that, oh, Spurs finished 17th the last 2 seasons, but now get to splash all this cash and the rules aren't fair and the Premier League favors the big 6 clubs and yada, yada, yada. I think it's completely off balance what they're saying. And it was a very strange week of reactions online, which I'm not trying to get us like wrapped up in that too much. But I do think that the reaction from the Spurs fans a little bit is slightly off base, because I saw a lot of this type of mindset of we've built up to this moment. We've suffered for 6 years and we built a new stadium and we sold off a ton of players and have made a bunch of sales. Like, I agree with the point that the net spend is not what they're saying it is right now. Like we have sold a lot of players this summer and made very good deals, and all of that is fine and well. But I don't think that this is a finally this is paying off for Spurs because they're spending all of this money. I still look at this very much as a project instead of a coronation of any kind. And I'm wondering how you feel about that because to your point, what we're talking about here is no, we're still getting the wheels on the car, much less getting them spinning at this point.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
Yeah.
First off, Ange said it best. Tottenham will make people do crazy things, right?
Yes.
It makes people crazy. Um, Villa fans and Newcastle fans, the easiest way to talk about this is Spurs have been in Europe 18 of the last 20 seasons. Newcastle have been in Europe 18 times their entire existence. I don't have as much animosity for Villa fans as I do for Newcastle fans, simply because we haven't won a big year trophy and they have. They have pedigree as well. But to say that they're remotely in the same stratosphere as Tottenham Hotspur is just not an accurate statement, both in history and pedigree and stadium and training ground and there are levels to this game, son, and no one's going to Villa Park for fun. So I don't ever take stock in what other fans say because Tottenham make people do crazy things. We are the worst of the best in the rest of English football fans' minds, and I'm totally okay with that. As it pertains to this summer and their inability to comprehend basic economics, it's fine. I don't really care. We haven't done anything out of untoward or illegal, or there's no cities or Chelsea efforts on this side. Um, Spurs have legitimately done things the right way. I am with you in the sense that this is certainly not a coronation. This is the framing of the new house after an extremely painful rebuild.
I completely agree. And I think what I mean by coronation is look, we saw it all last week with Premier League predictions going out and where do we think Spurs are going to finish? We saw the 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers being thrown out there, and I just still think that we are far away from that. And it's too soon to say. We don't know exactly what this thing is going to look like when completed or if completed. But I do look, you're going to call me John the Pragmatist, and I get it, but like, just I think we all just need to pump the brakes and wait till this thing actually starts to roll down the road. And like I said, the wheels are not even on the car yet. So that's the part that I'm kind of struggling with in terms of folks getting, and it's a new season. Everybody wants to be excited. You want to get amped for it. I get that, but the Newcastle thing really bothers me because it's like they don't even know who their ownership is or what's going on there or why things are happening the way that they are. Like, have you heard of Live Golf? Anybody know what's going on in the world? Have you heard of private equity? Does anyone know what sports ownership has become in this, not just in the Premier League, but in this world? I mean, we're seeing it here in the States. Look at the Los Angeles Lakers this past week. Stuff's happening that is a bunch of bad hombres spending a bunch of bad money. But to not recognize internally what you have going on with your own club, I would like the Newcastle fans to read a book about all of this and maybe figure it out for themselves.
Hey, asking Geordies to read, that's a
Yeah,
stretch.
that's a good point. That is a stretch. You got anything else on the game before we kind of open up the notebook and just talk about some of the
It's
other stuff?
over, thank Christ.
Thank Christ. I know. And obviously it's a 2-match week. You brought up Newcastle, but like I'm very interested to see what things look like on Wednesday in the cup match against
I
Charlton
think
Athletic, who
I
by the
think if
way
we roll this,
went to West Ham on Saturday and defeated the Hammers 2-1 in the league play.
listen, clear championship caliber opponent there, and that happens. Um, if we run the same team out that we ran out at the weekend, we win that match 3-1. That's what I say. I say
I
Mikey
hope.
Moore score. I say Mikey Moore scores those goals against Charlton keepers, right? Like that kid for Brentford stood on his head. He played his absolute tail off, and I don't think the keeper for Charlton's that good. To be fair,
Fair enough. In terms of the notebook, a few other things that, I mean, I don't know how much else there is to say about Savinho and Marmouche because they're not done yet, even though they are done. And the money is weird. And we all know that there's some strange bookkeeping going on in order to hurt Frankfurt by City. And we're just kind of going along with that. That's all fine and well. The Gakpo piece is interesting because it now, as you said, it sounds like City are involved, and I don't know what else will come of that. We haven't even mentioned, I mean, I mentioned his name earlier, but the Vicario deal was done last week. He does leave on loan to Juventus. They have an option to buy him for 8 million euro plus another 2 million in add-ons, which is what it is. The Vicario thing was very strange that it took this long to me, but again, I got all kinds of questions about what we're doing from a goalkeeper standpoint long term. So if they've moved on there, the thing that I really wanted to touch on, though, is, and this is going back to Lucas Bergvall, because De Zerbi was asked earlier in the week both about Bergvall and about Pap Sarr, and he definitively stated that Bergvall is 100% staying. He said that they've had the conversations, and obviously by playing him, I think, this is my personal thought, I think De Zerbi's trying to prove something to Bergvall, that he's going to give him minutes, at least early in the season, while we are not fully up to 100% health in the midfield. We'll see how that goes, but apparently he is going to stick around. The Pap Sarr of it all, it sounds like he wants out, and it sounds like Galatasaray are interested, and there's been personal terms agreed to there, but no contact between the clubs as of yet. And we talked about Richarlison as well, kind of. I think he's going to be ready to walk out the door once Savinho and Marmouche come in, because he's going to see no minutes for himself either. So anything in terms of I mean, we got one more week, my friend. Like there's one more week to kind of get this thing right with this transfer window closing next week. Where are you with kind of where it's all going to shake out and how these dominoes are going to fall?
squeaky butthole time, buddy. I don't like it. I don't like any of it. The Savinho thing is a little lackluster because we've been hearing about it for over a year. The Marmouche thing, I'm really excited about. If we bring that guy across the line, like that's the guy I'm going to be most excited about this season because he's one of the best finishers from outside of the box in the Premier League, and that's not something we really have a ton of in our team with Xavi hurt, and Madisoning. But it's going to be really tough because he's not a traditional target man 9, not the way that he plays. Theoretically, that's not what we actually need from a De Zerbi type system. But to be fair, with the way that our midfield was getting absolutely overrun and we were having to go long, like I could deal with the Mateta up front in the middle and like play Marmouche on the right or on the left and Savinho on the right. Like I'd be okay with that. Like we need more help. There are not enough goals, and expecting Savinho to all of a sudden start scoring goals when that's never been his game is tough. So what does that mean? That means that all of the onus for the goal scoring falls on Marmouche, who's not a traditional 9 in this system.
Well, and I think the thing that is positive about Marmouche, even though he may not be the target man that you're speaking of, I think that's honestly that's more of Solanke, even at a reduced kind of ability. I do think that Marmouche links well with midfielders. Like he can provide, he can drop deeper, provide some link up play, and I do think that plays. But to your point, he scores a lot of goals outside the box. That's a good thing when you only have 17 touches inside the box. Like if you're not going to be able to get the ball into the box, you're going to need to try and score from outside. So to your point, like I do think he brings some things to the table that are positive. It's just a matter of getting everything else around them to click. And I think that's where Spurs find themselves kind of farthest off, but it's going to be a really interesting week, my friend. Like they have so much work to do, and again, not only from bringing the players in that they actually want to have on the field, but getting players out too, because there's still a number of players who are going to need to go, not only just from a squad building standpoint, but from a homegrown standpoint, like there's a lot of puzzle pieces that still need to go into the entire picture here.
Yeah, I mean, they figure that shit out. I'm not. Deserby came out and said he doesn't want a bloated squad. He wants 21 or 22. And that's fine. That's kind of what we're shaping up to look like right now. I'm really like all that shit is not. I'm put the ball in the back of the net. Just put the ball in the back of the net. And right now we can't even do that. So why would I give a shit about the homegrown quota?
Yeah, no, it's fair, but I mean, I think I think it simply speaks to a larger issue of recruitment and a pathway, which has, I feel like, been going on for quite some time. But that's a much larger conversation and kind of an existential one as well. Before we get out of here, man, I do want to touch on Spurs Women because last week they announced all of a sudden, they came back from Spain, had a good preseason there. And then last week they announced they're going to do 2 more preseason matches. One of those happened yesterday. They ended up playing Birmingham City, the WSL newcomers, and defeated them by a score of 5-3. Toka Koga got a goal. Tika
Hey,
Tamberg got a goal, which
hey,
I know you're going to be happy to hear about. Match went into
huh?
the half at 2-2. Birmingham then took a 3-2 lead early in the second half, but then Caitlin Dykstra, Olivia Holt, and Olga Ottanen all got goals to make it a 5-3 final. The reason I'm describing the game like this is because I didn't see it, because no one did. It was a behind closed door friendly that was for some reason not streamed on Spurs Play for fans to watch. One thing I did find out about this, because I did a little digging, apparently permission needs to be granted from both clubs in order to broadcast preseason friendlies, so it may not be completely on Tottenham. This may be a situation where Birmingham City did not want the match to be streamed for whatever reason. But I do think this kind of stinks for fans because it feels to me like there's not a lot of momentum being built for the start of the season, which, by the way, is right around the corner. I mean, we're talking about just a couple of weeks. Spurs' first match is going to come up against West Ham on September the 6th. So we are not that far away from the games actually counting on the women's side as well. I'm a little frustrated by the lack of buildup for, and this is not just a Spurs problem, but it's the WSL in general. This is an expanded league now. There are more games with a league cup, or I guess we're calling it Players Cup, and I think there could be more done to hype up this league and Spurs too, because they are a team kind of on the rise. And in fact, there was a really lengthy and in-depth piece published this morning at ESPN about Spurs trying to crack into the Champions League places and kind of how Martin Ho has transformed things, written by Emily Keogh. I encourage folks to go check that out. It's a good read, and I do think that more can be done. This is all of us. All of us are involved in trying to hype this up, and I guess it was frustrating to learn that they were going to play these couple other preseason matches. By the way, another one's going to happen next Sunday against WSL 2 side Bristol City. There is no word on whether or not that will be on Spurs Play or not as of yet. So hopefully something comes of that. But I mean, I haven't even been able to find highlights of this match to your point. Like it's getting frustrating for me to want to talk more about the women's team and more about how they are progressing and not have the access to it to this point, which is, it's tough. It's a really tough look.
It's 100% a tough look, man. It's I don't want to say that it's like they don't care or see the value or recognize the importance, but having momentum leading into a women's season is extremely important. And this feels like they kind of stymied the momentum.
Yeah.
So whether it was intentional or not, I think it would be I think it would behoove the club to come out and say, like, to put a little effort behind the last preseason match or headed into the women's match or the women's season, a little bit more focused excitement around the women's team because this is a season that people should be getting behind.
Yeah.
So, I mean, us being able to see that all the way over here, thousands and thousands of miles away, like, it shouldn't be that hard for the club to pick up.
I completely agree with you. The other thing that came from this game, Hannah Wick returned from her MCL injury. She had not played since April. She came on as a sub in the second half, so good to see her back on the pitch. And the last part of this that I wanted to touch on, and we didn't even really touch about this on the men's side, Mickey Van de Ven was named the captain for the men. And then there were four other names, which you brought up. The fact that Archie Gray wore the armband in the first match means he was number 5 on the list. Help me out here. It was Van de Ven, Pedro Porro, James Madison, and I'm missing one more. Who am I missing?
Ben Davies
Ben
and Archie
Davis.
Gray.
Ben Davis, thank you. That's the one I was. How did I miss Ben Davis? Of course, he's on the leadership council as well. So 5 names listed on the men's side with Van de Ven at top. Any surprise that it's Van de Ven and not Porro as the main captain, or was there another name you were surprised to not say? I mean, I'll be honest. I was a little surprised that Andy Robertson is not a part of this group, even though he is new to the club. But I saw a lot of people like kind of bristling at the fact that Archie Gray was wearing the armband on Saturday as opposed to someone with more experience like Robertson.
I mean, okay.
You don't feel that? You don't feel any of that?
He's the 5th captain. It's like basically what this says to me is Mickey's going to wear the armband when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no guarantees he or any of the other 4 people in this list are going to be healthy. So somebody's going to get the armband. You notice when Madison came on, Archie gave up the armband. So clearly there's a hierarchy amongst the team. I thought it was cool that Archie broke Steve Perryman's record. Because Steve Perryman is a legend for Spurs.
And by the way, thank you for saying it was Steve Perryman's record that he broke. Everyone was reporting it as Harry Kane's record. Harry Kane held the Premier League era record for youngest captain, which he set in April of 2015. The overall club record is, in fact, Steve Perryman, and now Archie Gray. So I'm glad you did point that out, because that was being terribly reported all week by some outlets. Not everyone, but
it's almost like English football didn't exist before 1992.
Almost like that. On the women's side of things, though, it is Drew Spence, who we talked about last week. She is the captain, the newly named captain of Spurs Women, which I really like. And similar to the men's side, there are others in this leadership group, which the club is actually calling it a performance group, which I don't understand quite the difference in the nomenclature there, but to each their own. But that group includes Jessica Naz, Evelina Suminen, Toko Koga, Julie Blackstead, and Caitlin Dykstra. So a kind of a similar setup with one main captain and then, everyone else who kind of falls on the depth chart there as well, which I think is important as well on the women's side, because I don't know that we're going to see Drew Spence playing every single minute for Spurs. We're probably going to see some rotation there as well, especially because not a lot of people realize this, but Spurs women are going to be playing more games than the men here in the first half of the season, with the League Cup being expanded and Spurs men not in any kind of European competition. So there will need to be a little bit of rotation and a bigger squad on the women's side than the men so far this season. So, but that's what I got, man. Like I said, Bristol City this week, and we'll see if it's on the air. And then on the men's side of things, we've got the Cup on Wednesday against Charlton Athletic. That is a home match, second round, and then they will host Newcastle in the Premier League home opener on Saturday. And we're going to be back to talk about all of it next week. Anything else you got before we head out of here?
No, keep your head up, Spurs fans. It's a long season.
What else is there to say? I mean, this is the team that we have right now, and until it changes, this is what we live with. That is going to do it for this episode of The Depot. Be sure to check out the episodes on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Tottenham Depot. You can also leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice to help spread the word about the show. You can follow Todd at TC_Show. You can follow me at Astetka. Most importantly, follow us at Tottenham Depot. We will talk to you next week. As always, come on, you Spurs.